Welcome to the African History Network show. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, so last Sunday on our show, we talked about African students, numerous African students in Ukraine, attending medical school, college students, things like this, engineering, making claims that they were being mistreated when it came to trying to get out of Ukraine. Now, we know that Russia invaded Ukraine on Thursday, February 24th. We know today is day 11 of the Russian invasion. So far, 1.5 million people have fled Russia. Fled Ukraine. About half of them going into Poland. Okay, so if you've been watching our show, you know we've been covering this daily here on the African History Network show. And incidentally, I was covering this even before dealing with African students in Ukraine. I was talking about that even before a lot of mainstream cable news networks started talking about it. And even before the first article I saw from NBC News dealing with this was March 1st, 2022. I started talking about this February 27th. Okay, so we're going to give you an update dealing with what's going on with the African students. More of them have made it out, but still allegations of discrimination. We know the United Nations has come out and admits refugees have faced racism at Ukraine borders. But also, we got the news today that WNBA star Brittney Griner has been detained apparently for weeks in Russia, and this deals with. She's being charged with possession of drugs. Brittney Griner Star Center is detained in Russia. New York Times has a big article on this, and it's people are fearing, especially those national security experts, things like this. People who have knowledge of international politics, etc. People are fearing that she may be used in a pawn between Russia and the U.S. New York Times has a big article on this. Brittney Griner, star WNBA Center, is detained in Russia. Russian customs officials said a U.S. basketball player had vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. A Russian news agency identified the player as Brittney Griner. Okay. And she plays in Russia. She plays for the Phoenix Mercury. For the WNBA, but she also plays for an international team in Russia as well. So we'll talk a little bit about this, give you an update on what's going on. First story I saw about this was from I think it was the New York Post. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. We posted an article there, but New York Times has an extensive article dealing with this as well. So I was looking at this article here from New York Times, and then I saw one from businessinsider.com. And the one from, so when I first saw the story dealing with Brittney Griner, the first thing that came to mind, and I found out she was playing for a league in Russia. Okay. And the first thing that came to mind is, wait a second. Why would a two-time Olympic gold medalist and why would a WNBA superstar like Brittney Griner, why would she be playing for a team in Russia? I said it must be because she does not make nearly as much money as NBA superstars, as male superstars make. Okay. So that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that story. So then there was a article from businessinsider.com. Okay. I saw an article from businessinsider.com that echoed what I was immediately thinking. So this piece is called "How Low WNBA Salaries Led to an American Basketball Superstar's Detainment in Russia." All right, this is an article from BusinessInsider.com. We'll talk a little bit about this as well. How low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment. This is from March 5th, 2022. Okay. And one of the things it says here is American basketball star Brittney Griner has been detained in Russia and faces drug smuggling charges. The Olympic gold medalist spends her WNBA off seasons competing for Russian club UMMC Ekaterinburg. Brittney Griner and other women's basketball stars command much higher salaries overseas than in the U.S. Brittney Griner and other women's basketball stars, WNBA stars, get paid more money playing overseas than playing in the U.S. Okay, so we'll discuss that a little bit as well. But when I first heard the story, I said that's the first thing I thought, because there's been a lot of conversation and controversy over, even though we know that with the NBA, the viewership is much higher. But it's like, wait a second, why are these women making such little money playing in the WNBA? So we'll talk about that. Then there's been an outpouring of support for African students who are trying to flee Ukraine. Okay. There's a story from Atlanta, from face-to-faceafrica.com that we posted on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. It deals with Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after report of mistreatment. Okay, so you have that story. We know some of the African students have been able to make it to safety. Some of them are going to Hungary and Romania. All right, some are going to Hungary and Romania. And then there was a story that I saw from March 4th, where a group of Black attorneys filed a United Nations complaint for African refugees. A group of African attorneys filed a United Nations complaint for African refugees. Okay, so, and of course, in that group is Benjamin Crump, who is all over the place doing a lot of good work. And he's doing more work than the people that criticize him, I'll tell you that. The group of lawyers so NBC News has a story on this. The group of lawyers, which includes Ben Crump, will send the complaint to two agencies with the United Nations. So we'll discuss that as well. Now, this past week, President Joe Biden gave his State of the Union address. And the first 15 minutes or so dealt with Ukraine. And then after that, he dealt with a lot of domestic issues. We'll do a brief, so we talked about this earlier in the week on our show. So we'll do a brief recap of what he discussed. But there was a portion of it where he said, we don't want to fund the police. We don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. We don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. Now, this got overwhelming support in the chamber by Democrats and Republicans, but a lot of activists are attacking what he said. But what we're going to do is deconstruct what President Joe Biden said? Because the George Floyd, we're coming up on a break just a second, I hear it. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police. And very few people are talking about this. We're going to go through and deconstruct this step by step and break this down right here today on the African History Network show. All right, 9:10 a.m. Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
iRedify is a Black-owned digital platform that showcases Black and Brown cultures and people. The books on the platform are written by African-American authors, Afro-Caribbean authors, African authors, and so much more. Kids 14 and under can read ebooks, listen to audiobooks, and complete learning activities. Kids can even write in the books digitally. Get unlimited access to everything on the platform for only $8.99 a month at iRedify.com. Sign up for your membership today. Back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, look, we had two great classes that I taught this weekend, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, and from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can still register for those online classes there. So 10-week online classes that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So I'll give you more information on that. Okay. Also on today's show, the Tucker Carlson, we talked about this on Thursday's show. Tucker Carlson stuck his foot in his mouth again. Fox News, Tucker Carlson, a little white nationalist, Tucker Carlson. Okay. He's demanding to see the Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's LSAT scores to determine her qualifications to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, Joe Biden's nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. We're going to talk a little bit about this as well. Joanne Reed dealt with this also. We talked about it on our Thursday show. So we're going to squeeze that in as well on today's show. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you read, heard, and seen about yourself. Because when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, we're going to go to clip number one here, Jalen, from NBC Nightly News on Brittney Griner here in just a second. So if we look at this story here, and then we'll go to the phone lines. We look at this story here from New York Times. Brittney Griner, star WNBA center, is detained in Russia. Russian customs officials said a U.S. basketball player had vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. A Russian news agency identified the player as Brittney Griner. So the story is from March 5th, Saturday, March 5th, updated March 6th. Russia said on Saturday, March 5th, that it had detained an American basketball player. Later identified as Phoenix Mercury Center Brittney Griner, on drug charges, entangling a U.S. citizen's fate in the dangerous confrontation between Russia and the rest of Ukraine. Now, the Russian Federal Customs Service said its officials had detained Brittney Griner after finding vape cartridges that contained hashish oil in her luggage at the Sheremetyevo airport near Moscow. And it released a video of a traveler going through airport security who appeared to be Brittney Griner. The Customs Service did not release the player's name, but the Russian news agency TASS, T-A-S-S, or TASS, citing a law enforcement source, identified the player as Brittney Griner, seven-time WNBA, seven-time WNBA All-Star Center for the Phoenix Mercury. In a statement, Brittney Griner's agent, Lindsay Kagawa-Colas, did not dispute reports of her client's detention. Quote, "We are aware of the situation with Brittney Griner in Russia and are in close contact with her legal representation in Russia, her family, her teams, and the WNBA and NBA," she said. Now, in hearing this story on Saturday and reading about it from the New York Post, because that was the first story I saw about this, they said that her last post on Instagram was on February 5th. Her last post on Instagram was on February 5th. So it's suspected that she's been in custody for a few weeks. Okay. Now, and we're gonna get that clip to you, Jalen. So it's suspected that she's been in custody for a few weeks here. All right. Let's go back to this. I want to go back to the article from the New York Times. Now, Brittney Griner's detention comes at the most dangerous moment in U.S.-Russia relations since the Cuban Missile Crisis, as the Biden administration leads dozens of nations in imposing crushing sanctions on Russia's economy and its political elites. So the sanctions are tightening up day by day on Russia and the Russian oligarchs. We see Visa and MasterCard are going to stop doing transactions in Russia. We see American Express is going to do the same thing. We see Netflix is going to stop streaming in Russia. We see day after day after day more and more crushing sanctions put on Russia. President Vladimir Putin of Russia said on Saturday that the sanctions were, quote, akin to declaration of war, end quote, against his country. Well, you're the one that went into Ukraine. You should have kept your thug behind in Russia. You're the one that went to Ukraine. You're the one that sent troops into Ukraine. Now, also on Saturday, the State Department, which for weeks had warned Americans against traveling to Russia, released an updated advisory urging U.S. citizens to leave Russia immediately. Okay, so this is escalating. This is escalated since our show last Thursday. Last Sunday. This is escalated since our February 27th show, Sunday, February 27th. On Saturday, March 5th, the U.S. State Department, which for weeks had warned Americans against traveling to Russia, released an updated advisory urging U.S. citizens to leave the country immediately, citing the invasion in Ukraine, the quote, potential for harassment against U.S. citizens by Russian government security officials, and the limited ability of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow to assist American citizens in the country. Now, Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador to Moscow, who you'll see is an analyst on MSNBC, and he's pretty much on MSNBC every day now with this invasion taking place. Michael McFaul said, I obviously don't know the circumstances of her detention, but Griner's arrest should serve as a wake-up call to all Americans in Russia. Griner's arrest should serve as a wake-up call to all Americans in Russia. Get out, shut down your businesses now. And he's been in Russia many times. Now, the video released by Russia's Customs Service showed a traveler passing through security screening, followed by footage of someone examining a package that appeared to be from the traveler's bag. It was like a screener examining a package that appeared to be from her bag. The screening at the airport occurred in February, according to the Customs Service, raising the possibility that Brittney Griner, who's 31 years old, has been in custody for at least several days. Now, the Customs Service, it could be a few weeks, because the last post on our Instagram page is February 5th. The Customs Service said that a criminal case had been opened into the large-scale transportation of drugs, which can carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison in Russia. Hashish oil or hash oil is a marijuana concentrate that has a high concentration of the plant's main psychoactive ingredient, THC. It can be consumed in many ways, but it is commonly sold in cartridges that are used in vape pens. Okay. Now, if this is hers, she may vape. A lot of people vape. I don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke marijuana, don't drink alcohol, don't do any of that. But I don't think she was drug trafficking. I don't think she's like Frank Lucas, like smuggling drugs into the U.S. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. We'll also go to the phone lines, and then I'm going to deconstruct Joe Biden's State of the Union address and his statement where he said, we don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. And a lot of the woke activists are going crazy, but you do realize the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act doesn't defund the police. It actually funds the police. You do realize that. That's not me saying that. Senator Cory Booker, who helped write the bill, said that. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. The Business Scaling Challenge is a 7-day online event that is taking place the week of March 13th through March 19th, 2022. This challenge will guide a group of business owners through scaling their businesses. Business owner Ronnie Sumler is hosting the Business Scaling Challenge in remembrance and honor of her father, the late civil rights activist Rodney Sumler. He helped a lot of African-American owned businesses and local community leaders participate in politics. However, when he passed away, all of his ventures died with him. This inspired his daughter, Ronnie Sumler, to help community business owners preserve their businesses. Her business, Digital Dandelions, offers business Bibles to record business processes and procedures. Their business Bibles are their branded run-of-show business manuals that have everything you need to run your business in one place. Their business scaling kit is the first step in creating a business Bible. It includes everything needed to grow your business in one place. Join the Business Scaling Challenge Facebook group for more information, and good luck in scaling your business.
STEM Forward, helping our community find their place in the emerging fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Join us for our monthly live stream on our website, stemforwardedu.org. Watch, subscribe, share. Also join our mailing list to stay up to date with STEM resources and opportunities. STEM Forward, the future is now. Watch, subscribe, share.
Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation The Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, Jalen, I'm sending this clip to you now of Brittney Griner. Cue that up. We're going to that next. Okay, calling number is 313-778-7600. Okay, so right before the break, we're giving an update on what's going on with Brittney Griner. We're also talking about Ukraine. We'll talk. So, last Sunday, our February 27th show, we talked about the mistreatment of African immigrants trying to get out of Ukraine, especially those who were headed into Poland, And we know Poland borders Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, Romania. Those all border Ukraine. There's a global group of Black attorneys who will file a UN complaint for African refugees. Okay, and the group of attorneys include Benjamin Crump. We'll discuss this as well. An alliance of prominent civil rights lawyers from around the world on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, which was March 3rd, I think that was, a prominent group of that was March 2nd. An alliance of prominent civil rights lawyers from around the world on Wednesday announced it will file an appeal to the United Nations on behalf of Black refugees facing discrimination while trying to flee Ukraine. The group includes Benjamin Crump, the civil rights attorney for the families of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, attorney Jasmine Rand, who represented the families of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, Peter Herbert, one of Britain's few non-white judges, Jamaican member of Parliament G. Anthony Hilton, British solicitor Jacqueline McKenzie, and Carlos Moore, president of the National Bar Association in the U.S. They plan to file the appeal to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as the UN's Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. There's a tweet here from Benjamin Crump's law firm also. So we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show. Okay, so I want to go back to the story here dealing with Brittney Griner. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute. Everybody stand by. New York Times has a big article on this. Brittney Griner, star WNBA Center, is detailed in Russia. This is from March 5th, 2022. So the article goes on to say the incident comes amid intense repression within Russia as Vladimir Putin cracks down on internal dissent to a degree analysts say they have not seen since the days of the Soviet Communist Party. In recent years, U.S. officials have accused Russia of detaining and sentencing American citizens on trumped-up charges. The detaining of a high-profile American could even be an effort by Russia to gain leverage in the political and economic standoff with Washington over the Ukraine invasion. Okay, Jaylen, let's go to this clip. Let's go to clip one from. Let's go to this clip from NBC Nightly News about Brittney Griner.
Tonight, growing concerns over WNBA star and two-time Olympic gold medalist Brittney Griner, arrested by Russian federal customs officials on drug charges. This weekend, they released a video showing a traveler believed to be Griner going through airport security, followed by a closer inspection of her suitcase. The Customs Service saying they found vape cartridges containing hash oil, an offense which could carry a 10-year prison sentence.
So how worried should we be about Brittney's well-being right now?
Unfortunately, Kathy, I think we should be really worried. Once they figured out who she was, given the timing and everything that's happening right now, it's undeniable that she's now being held as part of a pawn in this geopolitical standoff and in the war in Ukraine.
Her arrest comes amid heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia as the war in Ukraine enters another week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, when asked about Griner, said,
"Whenever an American is detained anywhere in the world, we, of course, stand ready to provide every possible assistance, and that includes in Russia."
The 31-year-old center with the Phoenix Mercury has played in Russia during the last 7 years during the NBA offseason. Her team tweeting, "Our main concern is her safety, physical and mental health." With reports Griner has been detained for weeks, Griner's wife posted, "This message comes during one of the weakest moments of my life. We continue to work on getting my wife home safely." A spokesperson for the WNBA says that other than Griner, all players with the league are now out of Russia and Ukraine.
All right. Thanks, Jaylen. Okay, so that's from NBC Nightly News. That's from March 6, 2022. And then NBC News has this story as well. For more information, you can check this out. Brittney Griner's wife posts on Instagram about WNBA stars detainment in Russia. Okay, that is from March 6, 2022 also. You can check that out as well. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to line one. Who we have on line one? Is this Michael on line one? Who we have on line one, Jaylen?
We have Sylvia.
Sylvia, line one. Hey, Sylvia, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for calling and thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Sylvia in Detroit. My issue is who travels with cannabis, knowing that there are checkpoints, and especially going to another country with cannabis, which federally is still not so freely, legal.
Well, they were vaping cartridges. Sylvia, you'd be surprised who travels. You'd be surprised who travels and gets caught. But these were vaping cartridges that had hashish oil in them. You'd be surprised who travels and gets caught.
That's what's so crazy when you know you got checkpoints. And also with the students, why did the students choose to go there? Was there scholarships and affordability of something that lured them over there?
A lot of students go there for the educational opportunities. They have good educational opportunities in Ukraine at affordable costs. There was a story that we dealt with earlier in the week that talked about that as well. We'll go to that shortly. I'll pull that story back up. But it talked about the educational opportunities there. Okay. All right.
That is all I had to ask you because I thought it was so crazy, and I was just wondering how they were luring the rest of the people over there. But you said, there was
there's students from there's students from India, there's students from Morocco, they're Middle Eastern students who go to Ukraine for education. There was a story from the BBC that dealt with why they go to Ukraine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right.
I'll keep listening.
Thank you for taking my call.
Okay. Thanks for calling. All right. Let's go to line two, Jaylen. We have who we have on line two? Is that Larry?
Well, we lost Larry.
Okay, Larry, call back. Sometimes it's a little wait to get in. Call back, Larry. Anybody else on the line, Jalen?
No callers.
Okay, call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right. So there was a story from businessinsider.com, because the first thing that I thought about was when I heard about Brittney Griner, I said, well, why would she's a top WNBA star. I said, she must be playing in Russia. She must be playing for a Russian league in the offseason. Keep in mind, she's doing this in the offseason, the WNBA offseason. She's playing in a foreign league. I mean, the offseason, you should take off, let your body rest. I said, she must be doing this to make money. And then I saw this article from businessinsider.com, how low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment in Russia. This is by Meredith Cash, March 5th, 2022. How low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment in Russia. So it talks about American basketball star Brittney Griner has been detained in Russia and faces drug smuggling charges. The Olympic gold medalist spends her WNBA off seasons competing for Russian club UMMC. Griner and other women's basketball stars command much higher salaries overseas than in the U.S. Seven-time WNBA All-Star and two-time Olympic gold medalist Brittney Griner was arrested at a Moscow airport in February for possession of vape cartridges filled with cannabis oil, hashish oil. The 6'9" Phoenix Mercury superstar now faces up to 10 years in a Russian prison for, quote, large-scale transportation of drugs. What Russians are saying is large-scale transportation of drugs, according to the New York Times. Now, Griner has already been detained in the country for 3 weeks, according to a fellow WNBA player, and given escalating tensions between the United States and Putin's regime, could spend an extended period of time in Russian custody. The horrifying situation has shaken the American sports landscape. Like many other women's basketball players, Griner spends her WNBA offseason competing overseas. Since 2014, Brittney Griner has suited up for the Russian powerhouse UMMC Ekaterinburg, alongside a rotating group of fellow WNBA superstars, including Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Allie Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, and Emma Messman. Okay, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African-American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Come and travel with me to a time long ago and place far away. You will experience high adventure and excitement. You are fighting alongside an ancient army in fierce battle. Feel the exhilaration of struggle and final conquest. My name is Maninkore, and I am both a prince and a priest in one of the most advanced civilizations humans have ever produced. I want you to ride with me in my chariot as I slay the barbarians who have come to invade my land. I invite you to sit at the conference table with the great Pharaoh Taharka and his ministers as they plan intrigue and use subterfuge to outmaneuver and defeat the enemy. Come back with me to the land of your ancestors, to the beautiful land of Kemet. So open the pages of this book and begin the adventure. Find out what happens in the book Menenchare Battles the Assyrians in the Nile Valley from author Makari Jones. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, and we are live. All right, Jalen, I'm about to send you this other clip here dealing with Ukraine, because we're gonna go to that also. We're gonna go back to I want to go back to this article dealing with I want to go back to this article dealing from BusinessInsider.com, dealing with the low pay of WNBA players. Okay, dealing with the low pay of WNBA players. All right, cue that clip. I just sent you a clip from NBC News dealing with Ukraine, Jalen. So cue that up, please. All right, so as I said before the break, when I first heard this story about Brittney Griner playing for a team in Russia during the WNBA offseason, first thing I thought is, okay, because of the low pay in the WNBA, she's doing this to make money. All of these players, so this piece said that, like many other women's basketball players, Brittney Griner spends her WNBA offseason competing overseas. Since 2014, she's played for the Russian powerhouse UMMC, along with other WNBA superstars. Now, all of these players command significantly higher salaries abroad, overseas, than they can possibly earn in the U.S. This year, Brittney Griner is set to take home a league maximum of $227,900 annual salary from the Phoenix Mercury. But only in recent years has her payday climbed into the six-figure range, playing in the WNBA. I mean, how much the amount of money they get paid in the WNBA is criminally low. Okay, she's in the WNBA. Okay, she makes a league maximum of $227,900. But only in recent years has her payday climbed into the six-figure range. She reportedly earns $1 million per season with the Russian UMMC team, per the Arizona Republic's Jet Matcliffe. So she gets paid almost five times. Well, it's a little more than 4 times as much playing overseas than she does in the WNBA. Even under ordinary circumstances, this 2-season per year lifestyle is far from ideal. Without proper time to rest and rehabilitate, pay attention to this, without proper time to rest and rehabilitate their bodies, athletes like Brittney Griner often find themselves dealing with nagging injuries in addition to accelerated wear and tear that can cut their professional careers short. But not only that, they end up not only that, many of them have lifelong injuries, which require surgeries throughout the duration of their life. But during moments of international crisis, like the early days of the pandemic or right now, as Russia wages war in Ukraine, WNBA players take on second jobs overseas because it becomes all the more perilous. WNBA players taking on second jobs overseas becomes all the more perilous. Thanks to the rapidly deteriorating relationships between her home country, the U.S., and her off-season abode, Russia, Brittney Griner may be a pawn in a fiery feud between two global superpowers. According to the New York Times, Brittney Griner's arrest could be linked to a Russian effort to create leverage for a potential prisoner exchange with the American government or a reduction in sanctions related to the Ukraine invasion. In the past, the New York Times' Jonathan Abrams continues in that same article, quote, Russia has been detaining and sentencing American citizens on what United States officials often say are trumped up charges, end quote. They may release a video of her admitting to doing something. She may be coerced to do a video admitting to do something, and they'll use that. Russia will use that as leverage as well. Whether her detainment is connected to the larger geopolitical feud or not, Brittney Griner almost certainly would not be in this situation if not for this pay disparity. Had she made even a fraction of what her NBA counterparts do playing domestically, Brittney Griner could have stayed in the United States for the offseason without fear that she would not have enough money for retirement. She could have rested her 6'9" frame ahead of this summer's WNBA season as her reloaded Phoenix Mercury squad sets its sights on a second straight WNBA finals appearance, and she could have spent time back home with friends and loved ones. Most importantly, had she been offered an opportunity to make $1 million in America instead of Russia, Brittney Griner could have avoided jail time under a hostile foreign power. Read this article here from businessinsider.com. Because I've seen, number one, I remember when the WNBA started, okay? And over the years, I've seen numerous stories that have talked about the extremely low pay that these professional stars make, even after they go to the Olympics and represent their country in the Olympics and win gold, go for the gold, win gold, all this stuff. And they get extremely low pay in the WNBA. Okay, read this from businessinsider.com. All right, now, when Sylvia called in, Sylvia asked a question about why do they go to the Ukraine or go to Ukraine for education. So we talked about this early in the week. BBC had a good article on this. Why so many African and Indian students were in the country, in Ukraine? Why so many African and Indian students were in Ukraine? We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. I'll let you hear what happened when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered Friday. Dan Abrams of News Nation had Roland on and misrepresented a tweet from Roland dealing with firing police officers. I brought up Joe Biden's State of the Union address when he said we don't want to defund the police, we want to fund the police. And I referenced this back to Joe Biden's June 2020 op-ed article for USA Today, where he said the same thing when he was running on the presidential campaign trail. But also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police if you know what it does, but it does it in a good way. I'm going to deconstruct this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Follow the story Skeeter Hawk as attorney Ben Brooks rediscovers his Gullah Geechee heritage and finds romance along the Gullah Trail and the Sea Islands. Jilted by his fiancée who refused to marry him, Ben Brooks goes back home to Gullah country. There, the Gullah people come to call him Skeeter Hawk. While rediscovering his heritage, Skeeter Hawk unravels dark family secrets. A beautiful childhood friend, Fulla, becomes his guide as they travel the Gullah Trail from North Carolina to the Sea Islands in South Carolina in search of more answers. Ben Brooks falls in love with her and becomes torn between her and his former fiancée who wants to rekindle their romance. He also deals with a premonition that one of his enemies is pursuing him, providing a backdrop for mystery,
romance, intrigue, and suspense in this page-turning novel called Skeeter Hawk from author Sabby Stone. Order your copy today at sabbystone.com. That's S-A-B-Y, sabbystone.com.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Okay, next class is Saturday, March 12th. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Classes on sale, $60, regularly $130. And even after the course is over, if you have full access, you can watch the class as much as you want to. Even a year from now, you can watch the class. We have a bundle pack where you get both classes that I teach, both courses, on sale for $100, regularly $130. I'm sorry, regularly $260. Okay, so those watching on Facebook and YouTube, let me know if the signal is coming through now. All right, so you can still register for the online class I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all that and more. This is a 10-week online class, and the class is regularly $130. It's on sale, $60. Okay. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You get a 50% discount on the classes. And we have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes that I teach for $100. That's a $260 value. The second class that I teach is on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we deal with the history from that period of time, from the beginning of the Civil War and even what leads up to the Civil War taking place. So we start with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. We start with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and go through our history through 1968. And that one's on sale, $60 also, regularly $130. Okay, so visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and also email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, we'll see you in class. We'll see you. And also, as soon as you register, you can watch the classes we just did this weekend. You can watch last week's class also. All right. Okay, I want to go back to the story here. So the question was asked, why were so many African students in Ukraine for educational purposes? So if we look at this story here from the BBC, we talked about this earlier in the week. If we look at the story from the BBC, Ukraine, why so many African and Indian students were in the country. It talks about the Russian invasion of Ukraine has caused a mass exodus of civilians, including thousands of international students from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Ukraine was home to over 76,000 foreign students, according to government data from 2020. Ukraine was home to over 76,000 foreign students, according to government data from 2020. Nearly a quarter of the students were from Africa, with the largest numbers coming from Nigeria, Morocco, and Egypt. India easily accounts for the highest portion, with over 20,000 students, okay, in Ukraine. Now, the students are studying medicine, engineering, and business, and are important. And these are an important part of the country's economy. But as Russia launches the biggest European invasion since the Second World War, thousands of them have fled, hundreds are still trapped, and many remain uncertain about the fate of their education. Okay. So read the rest of this article here. Now, I want to go to this clip here. We're going to go to this clip that I just sent you, Jalen. And this is from NBC News. This is, as long as you are Black, no one likes you. Students allege racism during escape from Ukraine. This is from March 2nd, 2022. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Tonight in Ukraine, peace never had a chance. Overnight, Russians and Ukrainians agreeing to a partial ceasefire, allowing civilians in the devastated city of Mariupol to flee. But just hours later, while we were preparing to leave, the Russians started shelling the evacuation corridor, said the mayor. There was no ceasefire. Russia said it was the Ukrainians who broke the deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky calling his citizens to go on the offensive. This woman's 18-month-old son was killed yesterday. The doctors couldn't save him, she wailed, asking over and over again, why? People in this town have suffered days without heat, water, and electricity, and face devastating Russian bombardment on civilian targets, according to Ukraine, a charge Russia denies. Outgunned and outmanned, the Ukrainians are still fighting 10 days into Russia's invasion, taking down a Russian helicopter and shooting down a Russian jet north of Kyiv, killing one of its pilots. Russia's sprawling 40-mile convoy of armored vehicles failing to advance, still stalled outside Kyiv for nearly a week, as civilians in the capital overcome obstacles like this destroyed bridge to get to safety. Zelensky admonishing NATO for not implementing a flight ban. Starting from today, everyone who dies will die because of you as well, he said, because of your weakness, because of your disunity. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warning a no-fly zone could put NATO forces in direct conflict with Russia. But Russia's president is doubling down, telling flight attendants of the state airline that a no-fly zone and Western sanctions are a declaration of war. Any move in that direction will be considered by us as participation of that country in the military action, he said. Ukraine must be demilitarized and denazified, he said. That's the only message most Russians will hear about Putin's war. The harsh new media law comes into effect today, imposing a 15-year punishment on whoever spreads so-called fake news about the invasion. Independent media outlets are closing and being shut down. Staff at the Russian network TV Rain walked off set in unison during their last broadcast, leaving viewers old footage of Swan Lake, what the Soviet Union used to broadcast during times of strife. A chilling reminder of how Putin's new Russia is looking more like the old.
And Matt Bradley joins us tonight from Rivne. There is concern, Matt, about another nuclear plant tonight.
That's right, Jose. After that close call with a nuclear power plant on Thursday night, President Zelensky warned U.S. lawmakers the Russians are now closing in on yet another nuclear power plant, this one a little further to the west.
Okay, so that was the clip that I wanted, Jalen, is that's dealing with the 10th day of the invasion that you just played. Go to the one that says, as long as you are Black, from NBC Nightly News. Okay, so that was that clip was from Saturday, March 5th, 2022. That's dealing with the 10th day of the Russian invasion. We know the day is the 11th day. The invasion started Thursday, February 24th. Quick update from the Washington Post. Live updates from the Washington Post. Civilian toll mounts in Ukraine as world leaders raise question of war crimes. U.S. discusses oil exports with Venezuela amid a proposal to ban Russian fuel. 2 Ukrainian children killed in front of my own eyes while trying to evacuate, officials say. More than 4,500 anti-war protesters arrested in one day in Russia, group says. We know about 1.6 million, 1.5, 1.6 million people have fled Ukraine now, about half of them going to Poland. U.S. officials have seen credible reports of intentional Russian attacks on civilians and are documenting actions that could constitute a war crime, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Sunday. Quote, we've seen very credible reports of deliberate attacks on civilians, which would constitute a war crime, Blinken said on CNN's State of the Union. We've seen very credible reports about the use of certain weapons. Okay, about the use of certain weapons. Now, a total of 364 civilians have been killed and 759 injured since fighting began on February 24th, according to the United Nations Human Rights Office. Speaking on a day known as Forgiveness Day to Orthodox Christians, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared in a video message, "We won't forgive," quote unquote, "We won't forgive." Okay, do we have the clip queued up, Jalen?
Mostly they would consider white people first, Indian people, Arabic people, before black people. As long as you're black, no one likes you. I remember they punched a certain black guy, a policeman in Ukraine, punched a certain black guy for nothing. He was shot for nothing. Yes. So like I said earlier on, they consider white people before considering black people. Yes.
And after that, we went to the train station, and they will not let us in. And when they did let us in, they were like, "You have to give us money because this is not for free for you because you're foreign. This is not free for you. You have to pay for it." Maybe it's like for war. Maybe people will start feeling stressed. They want their people to get first. Of course, everyone wants the people to be saved, so they had to express that in a way. So I understand that, but at the same time, you should at least, say it in a nice way.
In Ukraine, there is some kind of this battles. There are so many people there, and the police don't let. They do like kind of racism against foreigners. They let Ukrainian people cross first, and then they let us cross. But I don't speak in general. There is some few cases that do that.
All right. So that was from March 2nd, 2022, NBC News. Check out the article from NBC News. Black immigrants choose Ukraine for quality of life, education. War leaves them fearful. Black immigrants choose Ukraine for quality of life, education. War leaves them fearful. Thousands of African and Black people have made Ukraine their home and report rarely dealing with racism. The humanitarian crisis, however, has called their lives into question. And they have the clip that we just played also. They interviewed the sister there. So read this article here from NBC News. Okay. So I want to go to okay, so we did the update on what's going on in Ukraine. Now, Face to Face Africa has a good article. And also, this is Ghana's Independence Day, also, March 6, 1957, okay, when Kwame Nkrumah declared their independence. So happy Independence Day to Ghana. Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. So this is a good article and something good people are doing. And there's a lot of good that people are doing. Everything from the attorneys filing the appeal with the United Nations to support for Africans trying to get out of Ukraine, etc. So this is from March 4th, 2022 from face-to-faceafrica.com. 3 Black women have raised more than $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine as Russia continues to attack the European country. Patricia Daly, who's 29 years old. She's a 29-year-old barrister in London. And her friend, 40-year-old social worker, Takunbu Koiki, got to know via Twitter the story of a young Black student who was documenting her difficult journey to escape Ukraine. The young woman, Corinne Sky, who we've talked about here on the show before, was studying in the eastern city of Dnipro in Russia when invaded by Ukraine February 24th, according to Sky News. Daly and Koiki later contacted Corinne Sky, who has since fled to Romania. The three women started a campaign to help other Black students leave Ukraine amid the chaos. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022. And we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about this great story of Black women who raised $60,000 to help Black students free Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. This is from March 4, 2022, from this is from face-to-faceafrica.com, face-to-faceafrica.com. Okay, we're going to go to Joe Biden's State of the Union address, Jalen, in just a minute. So cue that clip up. Okay, we're going to that next. So you have Patricia Daly and Takunbo Koiki, who found out about what's going on with the plight of African students. They found out on Twitter. And they found out about Corinne Sky, 26 years old, who's fleeing Ukraine. We talked about Corinne here on the show. Corinne safely made it to Romania. The three women started a campaign to help other Black students leave Ukraine amid the chaos. So the women told Sky News that they had helped more than 500 Black students to flee Ukraine through, quote, funding transport costs like arranging taxis and other emergency needs. Funding transport costs like arranging taxis and other emergency needs. What has been worrying since last week is the number of African students stranded in Ukraine. Apart from many Africans traveling to Ukraine to work, there are those who go there to study thanks to the European country's affordable tuition fees and its ties with Africa. Currently, Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt are the African countries with the most students in Ukraine, with Morocco having about 8,000 students and Nigeria with 4,000 students. Okay. Now, many have since been concerned about their safety. This week, African students and families trapped in Ukraine said they were blocked from boarding trains or crossing borders to neighboring countries. Nigerian students and other Africans in Ukraine spoke on Twitter about their plight while creating chats on Telegram and WhatsApp, the WhatsApp app, where they shared videos that appear to show Africans being blocked from fleeing the country. Okay, so check out the rest of this article here. This is a great story of what they're doing. Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. This is by Mildred Europa Taylor, March 4th, 2022, for face-to-faceafrica.com. All right. So this past week, Joe Biden did his State of the Union address. And a good portion of it in the beginning was dealing with Ukraine, okay? And then he dealt with domestic issues, okay? And this was on Tuesday. Okay, I think that was Tuesday, March 1st. So, and also NBC News has a good article to read. 5 takeaways from Biden's State of the Union speech. Washington Post has a story as well dealing with this as well. Takeaways from Biden's State of the Union address also. You can check that out as well. I want to go to this recap of what Biden talked about. And there's a piece here. So a lot of people are talking about Biden saying, we don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. And there's controversy behind that. And a lot of activists are complaining, Black Lives Matter activists, things like that. But that's what Biden was saying on the campaign trail. And many of these same people are advocating for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a responsible way. Now, I talked about this a little bit on Roland Martin Unfiltered when I was on Friday, March 4th. But due to time constraints, I didn't get a chance to get deep into it like I want to. So we're going to deconstruct this here right now. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
My fellow Americans, last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, 6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. Folks, let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this. The State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
All right, so I watched the speech live. I watched it again because I recorded it. And I mean, he has made some good points in there. Check out the 5 takeaways from Biden's State of the Union address from NBC News. They talk about Ukraine, Biden aimed for unity and got it with few exceptions. Yeah, two dumbasses, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who were heckling Joe Biden. Two idiots from the Republican Party. A COVID victory lap before a mostly maskless crowd, blaming inflation on corporate greed. Biden pushes anew for Build Back Better priorities without using the name. Just get the bill passed. Just get the bills passed. So it don't really matter what you call it. Just get the bills passed. Democracy versus autocracy, things like this. Ukraine took up a good portion, about first 15, 20 minutes or so was on Ukraine. All right. So a lot of people were complaining about him saying, we don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. I guess they forgot what Biden said on the campaign trail in June of 2020, the op-ed article that he wrote for USA Today. Now, we talked about this here on this show when it came out, because we actually did with like real substance on this show. So if you've been watching me for any time during the campaign, you know we talked about this. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to, let me pull this up here. We must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing opportunity. Federal dollars did not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a resort, but I don't support defunding the police. Now, this came out June 10th, 2020, during the presidential campaign. Joe Biden wrote this. We talked about it here on this show. He's not for defunding the police. He then goes through in this piece here. He then goes through and breaks down. He goes through and breaks this down, and he talks about. There's a piece here. There's a section where he talks about don't defund the police, support reforms. And he goes through, explains these. What he said in the State of the Union address is a boiled down version of this, but also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a good way, which falls in line with what Joe Biden said here. We're going to break all this down on the other side of the break. I talked about this a little bit on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. The Business Scaling Challenge is a 7-day online event that is taking place the week of March 13th through March 19th, 2022. This challenge will guide a group of business owners through scaling their businesses. Business owner Ronnie Sumler is hosting the Business Scaling Challenge in remembrance and honor of her father, the late civil rights activist Rodney Sumler. He helped a lot of African-American owned businesses and local community leaders participate in politics. However, when he passed away, all of his ventures died with him. This inspired his daughter, Ronnie Sumler, to help community business owners preserve their businesses. Her business, Digital Dandelions, offers business Bibles to record business processes and procedures. Their business Bibles are their branded run-of-show business manuals that have everything you need to run your business in one place. Their business scaling kit is the first step in creating a business Bible. It includes everything needed to grow your business in one place. Join the Business Scaling Challenge Facebook group for more information, and good luck in scaling your business. Come and travel with me to a time long ago and place far away. You will experience high adventure and excitement. You are fighting alongside an ancient army in fierce battle. Feel the exhilaration of struggle and final conquest. My name is Maninkore, and I am both a prince and a priest in one of the most advanced civilizations humans have ever produced. I want you to ride with me in my chariot as I slay the barbarians who have come to invade my land. I invite you to sit at the conference table with the great Pharaoh Taharka and his ministers as they plan intrigue and use subterfuge to outmaneuver and defeat the enemy. Come back with me to the land of your ancestors, to the beautiful land of Kemet. So open the pages of this book and begin the adventure. Find out what happens in the book Menenkere Battles the Assyrians in the Nile Valley from author Makari Jones. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022, and we are live. Okay, so right before the break, we're laying this out, dealing with Joe Biden's comments, and a bunch of woke people don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to go through and break this down step by step. This is what happens when people come here and make comments and don't read. Okay, I can tell what you didn't read by what you say. So I was dealing with what I talked about back in June of 2020 on this show, because we actually deal with substance on this show. And Joe Biden's op-ed article, opinion contributors op-ed article he wrote for USA Today during the 2020 presidential campaign, where he laid all this out. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing opportunity. Federal dollars should not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a first resort. But I don't support defunding the police. Now, this is what he said then. I broke this down on the show when this came out June 10th, 2020. I said he's absolutely correct. And he goes through and lays all this stuff out. I need to close this video. He goes through and lays all this out. And hold on just a second. So in the article, he starts out,
and anything could happen.
Hold on.
Only
Okay, so in the article, he starts out dealing with undoing systemic economic racism. He talks about we should also be directing our resources to actively undo the negative effect of systemic racism has on opportunities for Black Americans. He talks about entrepreneurs being rejected for loans, all this stuff. He lays this out here with systemic racism. He then goes in and then starts laying out, don't defund police, support reforms. Okay. So I'm going to bring this back up again here because they had an ad plan and I'm trying to close this out here. All right. So let's try this again. I hate all these ads that pop up. All right. USA Today. We're going to go to the clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered here in just a second, Jalen. Okay, so if you scroll down in this ad, so undo systemic economic racism, okay, all for that. And they have executive orders that address this. There's going to be more legislation as well. Okay, so they talk about this here. You scroll down. Don't defund police, support reforms. If state and local governments fail to make necessary changes, the Department of Justice must have subpoena power for pattern or practice investigations into systemic misconduct by police departments and force these departments to reform. Okay. And they do that through federal oversight. They do that. It's monitored by a federal judge. Okay. These patterns and practices into police departments. While I do not believe federal dollars should go to police departments violating people's rights or turning to violence as the first resort, I do not support defunding the police. The better answer is to give police departments the resources they need to implement meaningful reforms and to condition other federal dollars on completing those reforms. Okay, condition other federal dollars on completing those reforms. I've long been a firm believer in the power of community policing, getting cops out of their cruisers and building relationships with the people and the communities that are there to serve and protect. That's why I'm proposing an additional $300 million to reinvigorate community policing in our community. Every single police department should have the money it needs to institute real reforms, like adopting a national use of force standard, buying body cameras, and recruiting more diverse police officers. Okay, and we need to prevent 911 calls in scenarios where police should not be our first responders. We need to prevent 911 calls in scenarios where police should not be our first responders. That means making serious investments in mental health services, like he mentioned in the State of the Union address. That means making serious investments in mental health services, drug treatment and prevention programs, and services for people experiencing homelessness. That may also mean having social service providers respond to calls with police officers. Now, he laid this out June 10th, 2020, during the presidential campaign. All right. Read the rest of this here. Now, some people don't read. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing to opportunity. Okay, so we're going to the first clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered, Jalen. So Friday, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, March 4th. And we talked about Roland was on Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. I didn't even know Dan Abrams had a show on News Nation. Dan Abrams was he's the chief legal analyst for on ABC News, chief legal analyst on ABC News. And Dan Abrams misrepresented some tweets that Roland did about prosecuting police officers. And then we started talking about it. And I connected this to the statement Joe Biden made about we don't want to defund the police, we want to fund the police. Let's go to this clip, Jalen. Let's go to the first clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Start Network. So yesterday, my publicist hit me up saying, folks at News Nation, at a cable network started by Nexstar, used to be WG in America. They wanted me on the show to talk about President Joe Biden's comments. They say the union call dealing with fund the police. Sure, no problem. So we had a pre-show interview. It's called a pre-interview around 2 p.m. Eastern. The show, they said, hey, your hit time is going to be 9:25 a.m. Eastern. Okay, it's no problem. So again, I was told that the segment was supposed to be about this whole issue, the issue of defund the police and Biden's comments about fund the police. That's what I was told. So they sent a remote truck to my home, and in fact, if y'all go to my Instagram page, you'll actually see that particular video where I did the show. So fine, no sweat. That's what we did. So then, right before we go live, like right before, they said something to the effect of, "We're going to refer to you as being an ardent supporter of defund the police." I said, well, that's not really how you can classify me. I wouldn't call myself an ardent supporter of defund the police. I said, I've interviewed many other people in the movement. I can speak to their position. I can speak to why people have that particular point. And they were like, so, y'all, we were like seconds away from going live. Now, mind you, 7 hours had gone by. 7 hours had gone by, and nothing had been said to me about this. And so, okay. And I said, well, look, y'all gonna call me whatever y'all want. That's fine. We're doing the segment. So we go to the segment, and this is how it opens.
Look, you've heard me say it on the show time and again. Bad cops should and need to be held accountable. If you want to advocate for certain reforms, I'm all ears. But defunding the police is a nonsensical idea that can't and shouldn't and thankfully won't happen in this country. Joining me now is Roland Martin. He's the host of the talk show Roland Martin Unfiltered. He's covered the movement extensively. Roland and I have grown up in this business together. Roland, it is good to see you. So, Roland, what happened? I've seen that you have been tweeting out all cops should be fired, all cops should be prosecuted for murder. What's happening with you?
Freeze. Freeze. So I'm sitting there, come to me. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going, oh, why are we starting with my tweets? Now, mind y'all, I was sitting there, and there was not a monitor in front of me. So I could not see the tweets. And so I'm sort of like, what the hell? So, look, y'all, this ain't my first rodeo, okay? I'm a pro at this. I know how to segue, how to stick and move. And so I went right into the conversation.
Okay, we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. This is to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Soul in Motion, celebrating 38 years in the arts. This energetic ensemble of dancers and drummers was started by percussionist Michael Friend and is led by choreographer Associate Director Pam Lassiter. Based in the Washington, D.C. area, Soul in Motion is now accepting bookings for Black History Month, Juneteenth, and summer festivals in 2022. Soul in Motion is also available for more intimate events like naming ceremonies and weddings. To find out more or to book your date, call 240-452-1349 or send an email to info@soulinmotion.org. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Soul in Motion, celebrating our history, our culture, our future. Soul in Motion. Theater, African dance, and drumming since 1984.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Okay, so I want to go back to this clip here. This is from Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, March 4th, 2022. And I was a panelist. I'm a panelist each Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered. He was talking about the segment when he was on Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. Nobody watches Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
First of all, the segment was almost 10 minutes. I'm not playing the whole damn segment, not giving them that much time. But I did circle back to the tweets because it needed to be addressed. Press play. What's happening with me was happening with the folks who are out there committing heinous acts.
And again, without getting anecdotal about case by case, because I agree, if cops engage in misconduct, they should be held accountable. What I'm concerned about is a guy with a reputation like yourself, longtime journalist. You've been in this business a long time. You've got a big name. You've got a big following. And you're out there saying all cops should be prosecuted. And I think that's dangerous.
No. Hold up. You forgot something. All cops doing what should be prosecuted? Praise. So y'all saw what happened there. Okay? He comes back and he's saying, oh, I'm saying all these wild, crazy things. Buttering me up. Oh, you're a journalist, well-respected, loud voice, whatever. So I'm sitting here going, really? Like, y'all got to understand. I've tweeted, oh, my God, I can't tell you how many tweets I've sent out. But I don't say just crazy stuff, just anything, just without context. Watch what happens next.
Let's read. Should we pull the quote from your Twitter again? All right. Can we put up Roland's tweets again, please? The two that we had in the introduction.
I have no monitor here.
Every cop should be fired.
Freeze.
Every cop should.
Now, leave it up. So y'all see right there, this was a tweet that was sent on February 22nd, 2022 from my iPhone at 5:05 p.m. You see it right there, okay? You see nothing below that. That's kind of important. Press play.
To be fired was the first one. And then the second one was every cop should be prosecuted for murder.
Response to what? Freeze. Boom. I'm not crazy. I know I'm responding to something. So you hear me say, in response to what? Which means I know there is context to what I was talking about. Press play.
It's not a response. It's your tweet. It was an original tweet. It wasn't a response to somebody else.
Please.
All right.
It wasn't a response to someone else. Right then, I knew he was lying. You can look at my face and watch what I say. Press play. No. What I'm saying is, it's not just like, oh, every cop should be prosecuted. If they are a police officer, I've been very clear with this. When you have cops who purposely turn off body cameras, who turn off dash cams, gotta go. If you have cops who lie on police reports, and we know after the fact that what they said was wrong, gotta go.
But again,
all right, pause it right there, Jalen.
I don't want to see accountability for.
Pause right there. Let's go to the second clip from Roland Martin and Filtered. It should say Michael Imhotep. Let's go to that second clip because he comes to me. I'm on the panel. Let's go to that second clip.
So you want me to come back on your show? Now, Dan, it's real simple. The only way I'm coming back on your show is if you are going to apologize on your show. You're going to have to let me know ahead of time that you're going to apologize for what you did. Pull that bullshit statement back up. He actually says, y'all, those words were quoted accurately and still seem unambiguous and much broader than about a single story. Y'all, that's a flat out lie. In no world, Kelly, Michael, and Matt, can somebody remotely suggest that I was speaking broadly. First of all, y'all have done this show numerous times. Have y'all ever heard me say, fire all cops? We don't need no cops in America. Fire everybody. Who in the heck? First of all, the most ardent, hardcore, defund the police folk would never say some stupid shit like that.
Right. Dan Abrams, he's trying to get clicks and he's trying to get ratings. I didn't even know he had a show on News Nation. You know, I know him from ABC, being the chief legal analyst from ABC. I didn't even know he had a show on News Nation. I watched.
First of all, a lot of folks ain't never heard of News Nation.
Right. Exactly. So I watched the video you posted on your Instagram page last night when I got finished doing the African History Network show, and then I watched the entire 9-minute segment on your YouTube channel. And the other thing is really important here, Roland. If you look at one of the chyrons during that segment, it says anti-police crowd not happy over calls to fund the police. Okay, this is right underneath you speaking. All right, you're not anti-police.
Nope.
See, what they do is they create this narrative to draw in viewers, to make this go viral, to try to increase their ratings.
Now you do know who was one of the people who was hired as a consultant with News Nation when they first started.
Was it you?
Bill Shine, the former number 2 at Fox News. But go right.
Yeah, Bill Shine. Yeah. But see, that's what they do at Fox News. They do stuff like that at Fox News to throw red meat to their base. It's very disingenuous. So with Dan Abrams, somebody as intelligent as he is, he should know, number one, if he just saw if an intern handed him a sheet of paper with a standalone tweet from you that said all the police should be fired, he should know that there's something more to that. Okay, but no, he wanted to run with that story. But lastly, the other thing is, Roland, I would encourage people, this whole thing with Biden saying fund the police, things like that, I would really encourage people to read the op-ed article that Biden wrote for the USA Today, June 10th, 2020, when he was running for president. And it said, and the name of the article is, "We must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing to opportunity." And right in here, the second line says, he said federal dollars should not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a first resort, but I don't support defunding the police. And then he goes through and breaks this down. He said this during the campaign. He goes through and breaks all this down. But then when you look at when the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, when the talks fell apart in September 2021, September 28th, 2021, the article from theweek.com, you talked about it on your show, I talked about it on my show, largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott.
Well, because they know he was lying. They know he was lying. And this is the game that they play. The game that they play, and again, they want to sit here and tag folks with labels. They want to sit here and
pause right there. All right. So we were behind. We started the show late on Roland Martin Unfiltered and running behind schedule. This is the point I was getting to. This article here from theweek.com. We talked about this when this came out. After it was announced that the talks have broken down, September 28th, 2021. Everybody pay attention to this. Read all these articles that I'm giving you. Largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott's argument that Democrats sought to defund police and reform negotiations. Okay? Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, and Senator Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey, and Karen Bass, Democrat, California, fell apart. The talks fell apart primarily because Democrats sought to defund the police. This is what Tim Scott said, by making departments ineligible for funding if they fail to meet certain criteria. This is holding police departments accountable. But a pair of prominent police organizations, the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, appeared to push back against Senator Tim Scott's arguments because Tim Scott lied, appeared to push back against Senator Tim Scott's arguments. And on Tuesday, though the senator was not mentioned by name, they said in the joint statement, they said, despite some media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. They're explaining that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act did not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a more responsible way, which is what Biden was talking about in the State of the Union address. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, keep watching. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes to break this down. We'll talk about this some more on our Monday show, okay? Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right. Okay, let's keep going. This deals with fighting against police brutality, John Hill. Read these articles before you comment. I'm listening to what I can tell you haven't read this. You're repeating nonsense. Okay, now this is from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police. We talked about this here on this show when all this came out. So this is not new for people who actually watch this show daily and actually follow this information and actually read. We talked about this when this came out, September 28th, 2021. Once again, the name of this article, largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott's argument that Democrats sought to defund police in reform negotiations because Senator Tim Scott lied. This is what happened. Senator Tim Scott lied, and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act was adding more funding to police departments, but doing it responsibly. And then when you read these articles, it goes through and breaks down what it was doing. Despite some, so this joint statement is from the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order Police. They appeared to push back on Senator Tim Scott's argument in a statement, though Senator Tim Scott was not mentioned by name. Despite some media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. They're talking about regarding the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The problem is a lot of people running their mouths and commenting on social media, like some of the people commenting on this thread right now, haven't read what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, haven't read exactly what it does. They're getting information from memes. They have no clue what they're talking about. Quote, in fact, the legislation referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives, end quote. The article from The Week goes on to say those provisions would have helped strengthen law enforcement, improve community policing, quote, without compromising management and officers' rights, authorities, and legal protections. The statement went on to say from the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police. They were in support of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. It added more funding to police departments, but it did it in a responsible way, and it would provide more accountability. The problem is a lot of people running their mouths don't read. This article came out September 28th, 2021. Okay, so, and they have the full statement here from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP. Takes you to the Twitter page. It takes you, you can read the full statement there. If you go back, okay, so it goes on to say the statement goes on to say our organizations remain steadfast in working with all interested parties who are willing to take a fact-based approach to enact effective and lasting change to avoid a patchwork of state laws that do not provide uniform standards and guidance to the policing profession. Because the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act was going to be federal law that provides standards all across the U.S. The majority of control over policing is not at the federal level, it's at the state level because of the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and states' rights. This is why people need to read the U.S. Constitution also. Okay, so read the rest of this article here. That's the most important part there. This is from September 28th, 2021. Now, none of the woke activists complaining talked about this because I saw statements from them, things like none of them talked about this. Okay, so we have this one, and then just a second here. I gotta find. All right, let's close that out. So if we look at the article from thehill.com, we talked about this article September 28th, 2021. We talked about this article also when it came out as well. This piece from thehill.com, and I gotta see where did they set this in a new hold on, they put this in a new tab. This one here from thehill.com is called Police Organizations Say Failed Reform Proposal Would Have Strengthened Departments, Not Defunded Them. They're talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Let's look at this one here. I've got a bunch of information. I have polls. we may talk about this some more Monday. I have poll after poll after poll that shows the majority of African Americans don't want to defund the police. They want safe police, and they want rogue officers, those that unjustly kill African Americans, things like this. They want them prosecuted, but they don't want to defund the police. This is from thehill.com, September 28th, 2021. Police organizations say failed reform proposal, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have strengthened departments, not defunded them, because Tim Scott lied. 2 police associations released a statement expressing disappointment over police reform negotiations ending on Capitol Hill last week after a bipartisan group of lawmakers said it had reached an impasse. The International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, are disappointed that the Senate, the U.S. Senate negotiators, could not reach an agreement on police reform legislation, and we thank all those members of Congress who participated, who partnered with us in the effort. The joint statement from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police said, quote, despite media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. It is our joint belief that the provisions under discussion would have strengthened the law enforcement profession and helped improve the state of community police engagement without compromising management and officers' rights, authorities, and legal protections. They're still talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Problem is people haven't read what's in it. On Sunday, Senator Tim Scott, who is probably related to Isaiah T. Montgomery, who was the only African American in the Mississippi State Legislature in 1890 during the Mississippi State Convention, where they voted to impose poll taxes and literacy tests and write that into the state constitution to suppress the African American vote. And Isaiah T. Montgomery, being a former slave, voted to suppress the African American vote. And he voted for the poll taxes and literacy tests. He was the founder of Bayou, Mississippi. He was a wealthy landowner, former slave. He was brain damaged, but at least his excuse for being brain damaged is that he's a former slave. Now, what's Senator Tim Scott's excuse for being brain damaged? Senator Tim Scott claimed that the bill advocated, quote unquote, defunding the police. That's not what the Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Police Chiefs said. That's not what Senator Cory Booker said. Senator Tim Scott went on Face the Nation and he said, quote, we said simply this: I'm not going to participate in reducing funding for the police after we saw major city after major city defund the police. Tim Scott said on CBS's Face the Nation. Meanwhile, Senator Cory Booker said the reform, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have allocated, quote, millions of dollars more, end quote, to police. Senator Cory Booker helped write the bill. Meanwhile, Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey, said the reform, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have allocated, quote, millions of dollars more, end quote, to police. Now, does that sound like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is defunding the police? Or does that sound like it's funding the police? Well, that's what Biden said in his State of the Union address. And he talked about accountability, holding police officers accountable, all that stuff. Just like he did in his op-ed article, June 10th, 2020, for USA Today that people haven't read. And just like they explained here, when the talks broke down on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in September 2021. Quote, Cory Booker went on to say on CNN's State of the State Union, Cory Booker went on to say on CNN's State of the Union, quote, we want to help officers with mental health issues. We want to collect more data, so we should give more resources. That's what Biden was talking about in his State of the Union address. He just spent a few seconds talking about it, but that's what he was talking about. That's what the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does. The House of Representatives has twice passed a sweeping bill named after George Floyd. And the bill bans chokeholds, carotid artery holds, and no-knock warrants at the federal level, overhauls qualified immunity, and creates a national police misconduct registry. But one of the most important things that the bill does is it lowers the federal standard that is required to federally criminally prosecute police officers. It lowers it from willful intent, which goes to state of mind, it lowers it down to negligence. Now, if you go to justice.judiciary.gov, judiciary.house.gov. Now, we talked about this here on this show before because we actually deal with real substance. We provide you with the evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. So if you've watched this show for any length of time, you remember me going through this in 2021, breaking this down. Fact sheet, George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2021, judiciary.house.gov was house.gov, official website of the House of Representatives. And we went through and broke this down. Let me flip over to this here. This fact sheet on what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and what it does. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is the first ever bold, comprehensive approach to hold police accountable. And it spends millions more. It gives millions more dollars to police department, but it deals with accountability. It does it in a responsible way. It doesn't defund the police. It funds the police. People don't read. It ends racial profiling. It changes the culture of law enforcement, empowers our communities, and builds trust between law enforcement and our communities by addressing systemic racism and bias to help save lives. The Justice and Policing Act would, 1, establish a national standard for the operation of police departments. 2, mandate data collection on police encounters. 3, it will reprogram existing funds to invest in transformative community-based policing programs. And 4, it would streamline federal law to prosecute excessive force and establish independent prosecutors for police investigations. And they're talking about criminal prosecution. So then they go through and break down the categories. It'll work to end racial and religious profiling, prohibits federal, state, local law enforcement from racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling, mandates training on racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling for all law enforcement, requires law enforcement to collect data on all investigatory activities, saves lives by banning chokeholds and no-knock warrants, limits military equipment on American streets and requires body cameras. Not just body cameras, you also have to pay for the storage devices to store the terabytes of information, which is very expensive. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act did not defund the police, it funded the police. And people that know about it know this. This is what Senator Cory Booker said. He helped write the bill. requires federal uniformed officers to wear body cameras, and requires state and local law enforcement to use existing federal funds to ensure the use of body cameras, requires marked federal police vehicles to have dashboard cameras, hold police accountable in court, It would make it easier to prosecute offending officers. Okay.